Hello, I'm linking Stu, and this is the first video in my mini series of tips and improvement in League of Legends. Today I will go over 3 tips that will instantly improve your gameplay and set you up for medium and long-term success. I've watched hours upon hours of low elo games in recent days to look out for some easy to fix errors, and these tips are for players of every elo and range from easily implemented to a bit more effort reliant. So yeah, that's something for the different levels of you all, starting with the simplest and easiest, but absolutely most effective tip. Main 1, maximum 2 champions. Statistics show that playing multiple games with one champion will automatically increase your win rate. For some, very drastically, and that only in a span of a few, but mostly up to at least 40 games. Some examples are shown on screen. Some who don't have such drastic curves are champions like Malphite or Garen that take only a few games to learn and master to a decent degree. Others that are more extreme show massive win rate increase after just a few more games, and even more so in the long-term success, for example Singe or Pyke. So picking 1 or 2 champions and playing them over and over again, just by doing that your win rate will absolutely increase. I guarantee you that 100%. So picking and mastering champions, as I said, statistically is 100% the road to victory. There are obvious reasons behind this, like understanding the kit, getting a good feel for matchups and your own strengths, but especially for newer or low elo players as well, there's a massive additional advantage, which is the extra brain power. If you know what your champion is doing in lane, in teamfights, what you're buying and so on, you will start to do so more automatic, which means you don't have to actively think about this. This frees up brain space, and yeah, this can be used to think more about the overall game or learn and implement some of the following tips, for example. Yes, the next one here, in League of Legends, everyone knows, yes, it's about objectives, but the most baseline of objectives are gold and experience. For laners, in this example here, this is mostly achieved by farming minions, so the more minions killed, the better. And even being near dead minions, obviously for the value of the XP gain, quite important. A great part of the game revolves around this, and there are quite a few strategies to play around this concept. Because that is a very large and more theoretical topic, I will not dive into these strategies too much now, but yeah, it might in the future, so stay tuned for that. But let's simplify it to, you want to maximize your income of gold and experience, which can be done by farming better and not getting zoned of minions. These are the obvious things that will come to mind, and yes, these are also the most important, but there are some periods where you're denying yourself of the sweet gains of minions. And that is your recall. And yeah, again, recall's also a more complicated facet in the laning phase. I'm planning to do videos about that in the future as well. But again, keeping it simple here. The recall, your time in base, and your wait into the lane again are fixed time periods where you're not getting anything. But are they? If you could minimize the time spent not getting minions, that would mean indirectly that you're getting more minions. So 2 easy ways to go about this are, the first and very simple one is, move out of base while buying. So just click at the edge of the fountain and then open your shop and buy. If you're still standing there and buying a bit longer than you wanted, you saved just a few seconds. Obviously, if you think about what you're going to buy while recalling or before recalling, your buy process will also be faster, but this just one click to move your champion while buying. It's granting you just a few seconds of extra time that you're saving. Next one, if you have some dashes on your champions that have either low mana cost or energy cost, or not such a long cooldown, you can use them once or twice on your way into lane to get there even faster. And the last one, yeah, that's something special. It's something I have found not many players really are doing. For the junglers this is very self-evident, but laners have not been doing it really. The first time I saw this was way back in Season 5 by my favorite top laner Marin. The game was quite different back then, but he would, if he could, buy boots as early as he could. This has quite some advantages, so the fixed time walking to lane is shortened massively as shown on screen. While I have to say, yes, boots are not as strong in combat, you have to think about your core items as well. So yeah, that's a side note. You can see that you can save up to 2 seconds with just the first tier boots, and then 6 seconds with the tier 2 boots. If you're not convinced that this is quite some time you're gaining here, maybe if you ever got hit by a Morgana binding, you know how long 2 seconds really are. These extra seconds will add up if the laning phase is prolonged, or you have or want to recall more often and because of that have to walk this distance more than once. Additionally, if you are a team player or looking for TPs or just want to save it for accidents, walking to lane instead of teleporting gets you to save the summoner as well. And with the cooldown changes for quite a while, if you want to save it for later, the cooldown gets smaller related to a higher level. So not TPing with your first recall gets your TP faster theoretically. To summarize this point here, move while buying, simply click to the edge of the fountain. Use dashes or movement speed buffs while moving to lane. Buy boots early if possible. Please again note, boots can be really effective in combat, and the movement speed and the boot passive, not so much the stats, can really help you in lane. And that some champs may make more use of this than others. For example, Quinn after level 6 is already super fast, but the movement speed in combat can help her kiting. So even in that scenario, if you're Quinn pre-level 6, even then the boots do make sense. Because with Quinn obviously you're also not running TP. One, for example, who can buy his core items in lane, can make massive use of the early boots because he's not recalling all that often, but if he is, he can shorten this recall timing even further and make more use of his passive indirectly through this. Similarly, lane bullies also want to spend more time in lane. As such, the boots have a great use for them if you're ahead. Also, again, if you're behind, you need every bit of gold and experience you can get. In this case, boots help as well. What I want to say here concluding is that boots can be argued for in many cases and should absolutely be in your consideration for the early purchases. Now to some small tips that are a bit more difficult to implement, but will absolutely help you greatly on your rise in elo. First, use your potions. Too often people die without using them. New players often have the mindset of using them after a fight to heal up. While this is absolutely a potential way to use them in a life or death fight, especially in the very early game, the usage of the potion health and healing effect is just so great that it will turn around many fights. Just thinking about this, the 150 health your potion provides during its duration obviously is a great margin of your total health, so regenerating it while in combat effectively gives you 150 bonus health for the fight. Now, another tip here is the dread of every low elo player, and that is wards. This takes time and practice if you have not been using them at all. So let's start with just placing a trinket ward. Even if you're blind and aren't looking at the minimap, your teammates might stop enemies and ping you then. Next, to get used to the first step and all steps to come, you have to start looking at your minimap in the second step here. So ideally, you have one eye glued to it all the time, but that's the end extreme. Start with a glance after every minion. If you can't get yourself to do it, there are sites online with timers who make a sound every 5 seconds, so you're reminded to look at the map. Personally, I have used custom games. The bots are not as aggressive in lane, so you have more liberty with your attention to direct it to the minimap. Now, if you have started looking at the map more often, you might want to see more on it. For that, control wards exist, and as they cost gold, you don't want to just drop them anywhere. There are many videos online, and I'm showing a map on screen with some nice ward positions. But obviously it's not as simple as that. So in the future there might be a video going over warding in particular. Just some small tip here, you want to be able to defend your control ward at least to some extent. So at least in the 1v1, if the jungler comes around, obviously that's a different issue. With more vision on the map and your eyes noticing every single enemy movement we spot, the last part, which I will only roughly mention here, is obviously the most complicated one. And that is analyzing what you're seeing. The easy way would obviously be, okay, we see enemy X is here and enemy Y is there. That's totally fine and even better than so many of your opponents and teammates in your games already. But understanding of what you aren't seeing and what the enemy movements might indicate is something on a very high level. So that again might be something for the future. I just wanted to mention it here for more advanced viewers. If you find you have problems with any of these warding related issues, just ask in the comments. I will gladly help to the best of my abilities, and as I mentioned, in the future there's a good chance of a more specific content in that department. Summarizing this last part, start placing wards, look at the map more often, use your wards smarter, and understand your vision and what you're seeing. This rounds up all the 3 tips I have for this first episode. I hope you learned something new and hopefully have success in the Rift. That's it for now though. Please stay safe, have a great day, and bye.